Hello, I'm not someone directly involved in the situation, but an outsider who took the time to read everything I possibly could about this. This video isn't meant to be a debunk of the victims' statements nor their perspectives, as they are completely reasonable for feeling the way they do about what happened. If I state something can't be determined, that doesn't mean I don't think it could have happened. It simply means more proof is needed before we can confirm this as fact. The fact of the matter is that Qwel severely neglected their perspectives and was quite reckless in her management of the situation. With this said, Qwel is not a monster, nor was she as complicit as people have claimed. She, like everyone involved with Rox, was manipulated by him, and there's more to the story than people are discussing. This was originally in the form of a document, however I have taken the time to make it a video for those who prefer this format. While I won't read out everything in the screenshots, I will be showing them throughout the video. I heavily encourage people to go through the sources included in my document themselves to form their own opinion, as once again, this is my perspective on the situation. Timestamps for everything are in the description. Content warning: fictional depictions of minors in sexual situations and other disturbing imagery, discussions of grooming, coxa, manipulation, and overall sensitive topics.
Small context plus definitions.
One thing that often gets lost in translation is the actual ages of Qwel and Rox in this timeline. Qwel is currently 21, turning 22 in July. Around June 2021, Qwel would have been 16, turning 17. Rox is currently 23. His birthday is April 14th. Around April 10th, 2021, aka when the first image was made, he was 17. When the second known image was made, he was 18. When it comes to situations of this nature, age is an extremely important factor. Even if some would know better at that age, it's not uncommon for teenagers to make critical errors in judgment. Rox had drawn numerous amounts of VCSAM. Due to the lack of information, the exact images that were shared to Qwel by others aren't 100% confirmed. The following terms are going to be important to understand as you read along. Grooming. Grooming is a manipulation tactic to normalize behaviors in another person. Grooming isn't simply sexual, nor is it specific to adult plus minor scenarios. There are many forms of grooming, but two are more relevant to this situation.
Coxa, child-on-child sexual abuse. Coxa is a form of sexual abuse that happens between two minors. It's often a very complex situation, as kids exploring sexual behavior is normal. However, this doesn't negate the harmful effects these sexual acts can have on unknowing and unwilling participants to these behaviors. Pedophilia. Pedophilia is the attraction to prepubescent children and is often used as an umbrella term for anyone who is attracted to those under 18, the general age of consent. While pedophiles can be children themselves and/or predators, not every child predator is a pedophile, and vice versa. VCSAM, virtual child sexual abuse material, aka virtual child pornography. VCSAM is a form of CSAM where the children being depicted are simulated. This includes fictional depictions of minors, real children being drawn or AI generated, adults edited to look like children, and anything else meant to simulate a child. While not as known as CSAM or CP, it's important to use terms like these to more accurately describe the material.
What did Rox do?
Just a few days before he turned 18, in April 2021, Rox had been in a friend group known for drawing VCSAM together. He made several artworks of characters from Tower Heroes, including minors. The version originally shown in the first exposed doc was of fictional characters, but it was very cropped, with the adult characters' head being visible, but not the minors. After he turned 18, he also created a different piece of VCSAM depicting Gary and a different minor within the same month, seemingly as a form of revenge. Prior to this, he also had many inappropriate conversations with another minor named Buddy. Something to note is how a lot of the documented conversations Rox had with other minors were coxa, a form of sexual abuse. The normalization of sexual behaviors is a common factor in these cases. While I won't speak on the other allegations since Qwel is not relevant to those situations, I implore you to look at both documents on Rox. According to many, Rox was fired specifically due to the drawing made of Gary and another minor in sexual acts. June 4th, 2021, Qwel was venting to a Pixelbit staffer about being alerted of some of these depictions, one of which was a kissing image of Gary and another minor. This staffer then told Hilo on the 8th, another Pixelbit staffer, which led to Rox's ban on the 22nd. Qwel claimed to be relieved that Hilo was made aware of this. In this conversation, This mod claims Qwel described Rox as being hostile to her after she found this out. His hostility at this exposure is manipulation. This is a common tactic used to make the person who brought it up seem like the problem. While many claim they would have cut someone off for doing this the first time, not everyone in toxic friendships will have the foresight to understand what Qwel is or VCSM. Rox was confirmed to have downplayed his actions on numerous occasions. It's not unlikely that Qwel, another person he's lied to, wanted to believe that he was really willing to be a better person, especially when Rox was known for using his age as a reason for why he was ignorant to his actions. In a re-uploaded video, a YouTuber named Parlo specifically reached out to Qwel on October 6, 2024. During this questioning, she confirms this as Qwel mentions she hadn't known about the full extent of Rox's depravity and thought of him as a misguided teenager. Her consistent naivety and ignorance is something worth criticizing, not that she trusted him at all. She does at least admit fault in these messages.
Gary and Qwel's conversation, December 2021.
Gary apparently approached Qwel in December 2021 about Rox, questioning why she's friends with him and claiming he shouldn't be in the Tower Heroes community as he's gonna do the same thing again. Qwel. They then had a call where it seems Qwel had a talk with Rox. She then messaged Gary saying things will be changing as he agreed to stop posting Tower Heroes entirely. When Qwel asked if Gary wants her to say more, he says no. While this started as a warning, due to us not knowing the nature of this call, it's not conclusive enough to say she didn't take Gary seriously. Gary claims Qwel helped him back into the Tower Heroes community, while their conversation shows the opposite, especially when she did eventually get Rox to agree to leave that community alone. With the lack of any continued screenshots, it was hard to determine whether Gary continued warning her or if Qwel specifically encouraged him to post Tower Heroes content. Since then, we have been shown a little more in regards to this, and I will go over the new screenshots provided in the next half of this reading.
2022 to 2024.
Over the years, as Rox worked with Qwel, many of his wrongdoings resurfaced. By this time, these two were very close friends and Rox had continuously downplayed his actions. Obviously, as someone who believed his words, Qwel supported him, defending himself from the allegations. This was a terrible move as she admittedly did not thoroughly inform herself on many of these claims, simply repeating the "it's false" or "he's changed" narrative that Rox has pushed on the whole staff team by this point.
In August 2024 VC.
One of the main issues people have is Qwel being in a VC, August 2024, where they explain the situation to her. However, nowhere in this video does it fully explain what was actually happening in depth. They're telling Qwel he drew VCSAM in April 2021, so a little over 3 years ago, of 2 characters from Tower Heroes. Except this time, the screenshot was shown in full to Qwel. According to Qwel's account, she didn't know the ages of these characters until this discussion. In this same VC, at the end, you hear Rox say,
"But as I've told you, and I'll say it next year, I obviously vowed to never draw shit like that ever again, and obviously I myself don't support it. This was only drawn for this person."
Duck Adam, in the video he made about this call, even admits he hadn't drawn any NSFW like this afterwards.
This is technically true. Roxurban did, well, actually not really. After this point, well, in the VC, he hadn't drawn porn for quite some time. The last time he did was some pretty disgusting stuff on the Roxurban archive. However, that is not public because it's just gross, right? Though it does depict sexual assault.
At least, none that we know of. Does this change Rox's predatory behavior? No. Even though he was a minor, he still groomed his peers via exposure to sexual content or wanting them to commit sexual acts. That doesn't change how Qwel, within this toxic friendship with Rox, likely trusted that this was something he wouldn't do again. That isn't indicative that she intentionally kept him around knowing he was a predator, as all of the information that we were shown was something he likely told her wouldn't happen ever again as he did in the call. According to Qwel, it wasn't until newer information, October 2024, that she was shown by Snail and Shinzu an image that made Qwel realize she had been lied to. We do not know what this image was as of now, but it'd be fair to assume it was in relation to his VCSAM.
Void's document.
Void's document about Rox shows how he and Qwel were in similar boats, both knowing about his chat with Gary, yet both gave him a second chance and even defended him. Yet, his recent reaction to people pointing out Qwel also fell for his deceit is quite jarring. Despite acknowledging her age at the time, he doesn't believe Qwel was manipulated by Rox. It comes off as dismissive at best and invalidating at worst. You can support the other victims and know Qwel's ignorance is dangerous while not denying Rox was still a manipulative person to Qwel and others. He was one of several in the call with Rox and Qwel. When the initial video from Duck Adam came out, many, including former staff, were rightfully furious at Qwel for withholding this information. However, most did not mention Void being there. Void himself stated in his document that he and Qwel had zero idea of the extent of Rox's actions until October 2024. Yet, if what Qwel said was a lie, then this would mean Void had either forgotten about the information presented or had been lying as well. Qwel and Void share the same sentiment that what they saw in October 2024 was the last straw, but Void recently stated the evidence was not worse. Unless he also didn't see the evidence at the time as damning, this doesn't make sense. Despite making a correction that claims Qwel might be more complicit than he realized, he doesn't address his own involvement here nor on Twitter, instead continuing to only mention Qwel's inaction. This isn't to blame him as he too fell for Rox's manipulation, but once again, it seems contradictory to then claim Qwel was never manipulated despite both parties being in the same situation. One can be both a victim and an enabler. If others involved believes Qwel knowingly putting children at risk and, in Void's words, causing real harm, then Void not being condemned or openly taking accountability for equally failing to inform the public or staff despite sitting on the same information is odd to say the least. Unfortunately, we may never know his true thoughts during that time as he has seemingly deleted his prior account.
Joji's document.
Joji's document is the one that contains the most damning instances of Qwel's avoidant and suspicious statements. Overworking someone going through chemo while downplaying the harassment they faced is disgusting. We must also acknowledge Joji did admit to avoiding conflict with Qwel both due to Rox's active grooming of him and other factors. We cannot confirm nor deny if Joji had communicated his issues with them, as they notably did VCs rather than text exchanges. For example, Joji said he was expected to work while doing chemo, but seemingly volunteered to help with the Rox situation, offering to help outside of the initial feedback. Hopefully, Joji will be able to provide more in terms of evidence to back up all of his testimony. I don't doubt there was mistreatment, but the only evidence of this doesn't convey the same sentiment. On Twitter, Joji has gone on to state that Qwel refused to let Rox go and only let him go because she had to. While he's entitled to feel this way, there's not enough proof to claim this for a fact. Similarly to Void, there are ways to condemn her lack of action and transparency to staff without downplaying Rox's manipulation of Qwel, especially when Joji knows how manipulative he really was.
Acknowledging Chip's thread.
At the time I had written this section, Chip has yet to post his own full statement. However, in the newest document containing multiple testimonies, Chip has given one as well. So, I'll be going over that soon. Something to note is Duck Adam alleged that he got victims to help with his video. However, Chip, one of the victims, admits that Adam pressured them into giving their input for the video. In regards to Adam, it seems as though he made this video due to his feud with Qwel, making this seem like a personal vendetta rather than a genuine video for victims.
Rox and the Flavor Frenzy files.
Rox gave his side of the story on Twitter, and while people claim these screenshots were damning, I'd seen people do similar things in order to cut out toxic people from their lives. Do you think Rox would have been more willing to leave had Qwel called him a predator? This is less an example of Qwel not caring and more of an example of people-pleasing behaviors. This isn't a good thing, but it is human. The evidence he shows himself contradicts that Qwel wanted to remain friends with Rox, as he admits Qwel stopped talking to him and likely blocked him 2 weeks after in October 2024, aka the same month he was fired. He seemingly did give her the files on Discord around the same time she fired him. However, not only is the message where he apparently gave her a link edited, but why would he then send a OneDrive in April 2026 if he really did give them to her? Even if we focus on Qwel lying about the files, his account of this situation is somewhat questionable given he claimed he didn't give them to her prior. As Joji's document stated, while she likely had received the files themselves were a mess. It's entirely possible he originally gave her incomplete files or polished the files in April, but this isn't stated by Rox himself.
Qwel isn't completely innocent.
While I have gone over a lot of accusations towards Qwel, there are still issues that not only need to be addressed, but victims deserve their past due apologies. Firstly, Chip allegedly never got an apology directly from Qwel, but indirectly from someone else. It's not only disrespectful to send someone else to do your apology, but the lack of acknowledgement since isn't helping her case. Secondly, in some of the screenshots from the updated doc on Rox, Qwel wasn't quite answering questions in regards to why she and her team were banned. Considering the original document came out almost 2 weeks before she claimed no one informed her, she seems severely aware. Thirdly, newer allegations have surfaced claiming Qwel recorded Prawn aka Sam, who was a minor at the time, venting to her, and then proceeded to share this clip to others while bad-mouthing them. Unfortunately, at the time, the screenshots don't show that Qwel knew about the grooming. It also doesn't show screenshots of Sam showing Qwel she cut them off, unless it happened in a VC. Since most of their discussions were in VCs or VR chat, we can't determine the extent of her awareness. More screenshots were added in the most recent document, which I'll be going over as well. Considering how this is post-Rox firing and how the community treated her for giving Rox a second chance, before knowing he drew NSFW of real children. Her stance on pro-shipping being so hostile isn't surprising. This doesn't mean Sam isn't owed a personal apology, as recording someone without their consent, especially under the purposes of calling them out to your friends, is vile, let alone someone who you knew was a teenager. Fourthly, any and all staff, former and current, are owed apologies due to her negligence, and changes need to be made so this never happens again. Lastly, if what Rox and Joji claimed about the files is true, she needs to apologize to fans, especially FF fans, who she misled about the game's development for ages.
Conclusion of this section.
Qwel is far from a saint in this situation, and an apology to the victims is the very least she should do. Still, we must remember that context matters more than we realize. Not everyone who does something wrong is doing so on purpose, and Qwel is unfortunately a major example of this. Especially when we know Rox, the man known for grooming and conditioning those around him into believing he'd change, was a close friend whom she trusted dearly. This will never excuse putting other victims in danger, and it is reasonable to be frustrated in her handling of this situation. Even so, you can be frustrated while not assuming she was perfectly okay with everything Rox did or denying she was still a victim of his manipulation. Someone doesn't stop being a victim for believing an abuser could possibly change. This ends the reading of the first half of my document.
Newest document, a collective testimony about Blushcrunch Studios.
The document includes testimony from multiple victims such as Gary, Joji, Void, Snail, Chip, Sam, and an anonymous source. I'm going to take this time to discuss everyone's testimony and my general perspective on it. Something to note is that more victims are adding their statements, so I'll be adding them to my document as they come. Keep in mind that I will be passively referencing things I've already provided commentary plus screenshots for.
Gary.
There isn't much new to discuss in this regard. Gary did at least give a summary of what he remembered from the call. Of course, this isn't the same as hearing Qwel herself say it, but it's better than nothing. The summary itself reinforces that Qwel did get him to leave that space alone, while also attempting to fix Rox, adding to the notion she saw him as an immature teenager. This ignorance is worth criticizing, but it's unfortunately not uncommon to trust a bad friend. I do think that it was still irresponsible to not have the foresight to at least keep these videos unlisted. Even if you don't expect it to leave your friend's circle, if it's public, it will be found. There's also a section of Rox's original video where Qwel, based on false allegations from another person, used that as a reason for Gary's claims being equally false.
It's important to say that Tom seems to be friends with Gary, as Tom has him added on Roblox, and is even endorsing Gary's post that we discussed earlier in the video. Tom even states that he made his Twitter thread because of Gary's post, and as we talked about, Gary has engaged in a lot of terrible behavior and lies that have hurt and affected people on our staff team and server.
Just because Gary was friends with that person doesn't mean his claims are invalid. Gary shows another clip claiming Qwel considered him a danger to their community. However, this was taken from Rox's section, where he claims both him and Qwel see Gary as a danger to the mental health of their community.
To him that he is a danger to the integrity of the server. We are not certain if the staff member said exactly this, as Gary has once again provided no evidence for a single word he's saying. However, me and Qwel agree that Gary genuinely is a danger to our server, not because he's exposing the quote truth, but because his misinformation campaign has had serious repercussions on our server and the mental health of our entire mod team.
Considering Qwel has admitted to not reading the docs and taking Rox at his word, there isn't much to conclude if Qwel herself thought this after reading everything, or this is Qwel's consensus after Rox lied to her.
Joji.
Joji adds a lot more context for their falling out, revealing Qwel's lack of action in supporting Eric, a member suffering from cancer. Joji is reasonably frustrated at this display of disinterest, and it's extremely shady to ignore such vital information. Qwel didn't want to address this with Eric until Eric himself told her, which is fair. People want their privacy, and approaching someone with private information you've been told by someone else can push them away. Qwel also clearly stated she was not in the right headspace to emotionally support Joji at that time. It's reasonable to assume she shut down when people approached her after Joji presumably shared their private conversation with others. This, however, doesn't excuse how she treated her friends who wanted her to acknowledge this. The endless stonewalling to people you claim to hold close is always going to be devastating for them.
Chip.
Chip has finally given his side of the story. Here, he explains his archival of the thread as well as what happened after Rox was fired. You'll notice Void being the main line of contact for him and the other victims rather than Qwel herself. He also mentions the lack of apology given to him personally by Qwel. As mentioned in one of the above screenshots, Duck Adam, an infamous figure known for his ill treatment of victims, made a video about Qwel rehashing older information. Chip, being a friend of Qwel, wanted to defend her. However, Qwel ultimately let Chip and the other victims of Rox down with her lack of compliance, backing down on giving her statement despite agreeing to assist them and refusing to share any DMs between her and Rox. Regardless of Adam being a bad actor, not even giving an ounce of testimony for the victims is shameful. Void later revealed her treatment of Joji and Eric to Chip, as well as being the one to reveal that Qwel knew about Rox in August 2024. Rox did make things harder as well by doing as he had always done and lied to Qwel, Void, and others about the true severity of the situation. Regardless, Chip's devastation is understandable as Qwel has let him and the other victims down once again with her silence.
Sam.
Sam provides more screenshots in relation to Qwel and them having an established friendship in February 2026. They also discuss how they got into dark shipping in the first place via their groomer. However, Sam admitted to lying about their contact with him, the groomer, and not being able to provide evidence that they had cut off this person since they hadn't at the time. Qwel should have been understanding of Sam's situation regardless, as she of all people knows that leaving a groomer is more complex than a block. As mentioned before, I can see why she clearly did not want to take any chances nor receive more backlash for believing another person can change for the better. She still should have handled this situation with more tact and maturity, as airing out Sam's business to anyone is shameful, especially when framing Sam is such a terrible light.
Snail.
I don't really have much to say on this one, as while it does seem like Qwel switched up, this mostly showed Qwel not really approving of Snail's approach nor opinions. We must take into account how, without any evidence, Snail and others did openly accuse the staff of AI usage, damaging their credibility. Not to mention claiming the LGBTQ+ representation was poor. One can't blame the owner for not wanting to associate with someone who levied false statements against their team. Not to mention Qwel, being a lesbian, isn't going to take criticism of the representation well. Qwel, as the owner, should have nipped the petty comments in the bud, but it doesn't seem like she was the one starting these situations, let alone purposefully propagating a hate campaign, as the section claims. Her comments about Dandy, though, are extremely weird and off-putting and worthy of questioning. Overall, this section was unfortunately lacking in comparison to the rest.
Void.
Void starts off with a similar sentiment to Joji, feeling disgusted by Qwel's avoidant behavior regarding Eric and ignoring anyone who addressed it. He also mentions the tremendous stress he was put under while having to playtest for the game, in which Qwel was not being as emotionally available as he needed her to be. While we don't have the call, it's not hard to believe he never got an apology for her unavailability as his friend. However, in regards to the playtesting itself, the failure to provide adequate help falls on both Qwel and Joe's shoulders, as they, the owner and president respectively, are responsible for keeping a stable work environment and hiring more employees. Void mentioned how she handled Rox. However, as we have previously gone over, he had almost the same amount of knowledge in regards to Rox's past. While it's clear that Qwel treated him poorly, to claim she treated Rox better is a bit short-sighted. She ghosted and blocked him within the same month of his firing, which, considering their 3 to 4 year-long friendship isn't an easy thing to do.
Anon number 1.
Anon 1 allegedly met Qwel in VR chat where Qwel was seemingly snarky and rude towards them, embarrassing them in front of others. They also alleged Qwel came up to them privately and discussed how people were using AI to spread misinformation about her, as well as making inappropriate content about her, seemingly as an explanation for her aggressive remarks. While we don't have any recordings of this conversation, if this is true, that comment from Qwel was unwarranted, and lashing out just because of other issues is never okay. Especially if she then spilled out triggering information to a stranger dealing with their own issues. Anon has since rewritten their testimony with some additional information. According to them, Qwel had also kept bringing up their stim, making them feel extremely self-conscious. If true, this is quite insensitive and even ableist.
Overall,
Qwel was a terrible friend to many, very emotionally distant, and needs to be held accountable plus apologize to those she has wronged. I do not think, however, this proves her to be as dangerous or irredeemable as others make her out to be, especially when certain testimonies are less about her and Rox and instead about how she handles things. Even so, as someone who deals with mental health issues, while it's not hard to understand the avoidance in certain situations, Qwel's behavior has still impacted many people negatively. Everyone she has wronged isn't a liar or in it for the money, as many of Qwel's hardcore defenders have claimed. They're humans with real emotions and feelings. They deserve to share their stories and have their voices heard. That is all for this reading, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Please leave your own thoughts in the comments below, but please be respectful to the parties involved.